Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us on this call. Um, we're here today to talk about Innovative and, in particular, their Apollo cart. And I'm going to start the call off by just having everybody go around and introduce themselves. I'll start off with you, Julian, a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Julian. I'm based in New York. I actually live in Connecticut, but it's not very far. I'm a self-taught photographer turned videographer and filmmaker who's now a DP, who now owns a production company where we do a lot of direct-to-client work. And I have two innovative carts. I have an NXT and an Apollo, and they're central to my workflow, and I love them, and I'm sure I'll have them forever because they're absolutely beast. So I'm super thankful to be here.
Julian, you own a rental company too, don't you?
Yeah, that was just a sort of natural progression next step where it was like I've always enjoyed everything equipment. And I would say about a year and a half ago, I just said, okay, everything's for rent. You can have it all. And that just kind of snowballed, and it's been really nice. It's really fun. I love it. So I'm thankful to everyone who's like renting stuff from us, because there's a lot of things that don't necessarily work out, and it's working out.
Give us the name of the rental company where we can find you. Early plug.
Yeah, so it's Vintal, Vintal. I was always trying to think of a cool name for so long for everything production companies. I can't get them right, and I finally said to myself, vintage and rentals put together is Vintal. So that's it. Yeah, we're on ShareGrid. We have a website, vintalrentals.com, and appreciate the support.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Julian. Megan, tell us about yourself, please.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Megan Commons. I'm a Midwest-based first AC, particularly living in Kansas City, Missouri. I've owned I believe the Scout was my first introduction into the Innovate community, but I now own an Apollo and love it and all that jazz. But yeah, no, just a first AC. I don't own a rental company, but yeah, I've been doing this for a long time.
Megan, this is a generational business for you, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my dad, I got into this because of my dad. He's a director of photography out of the East Coast. So grew up on set. And my mom was a producer slash AD when I was really little. They were working out of Houston, Texas originally. Now they're in the East Coast. But yeah, grew up on set. There's pictures of me on a little Fisher Dolly as a little kid. That was my whole life, and then followed in their footsteps, hold out on those coattails, and then went into the first AC. I get asked all the time, like, "Oh, are you going to be a DP? Are you going to be a DP?" And I say no because I ended up marrying a DP as well. So it's like there's too many in the family. I'm good just being a focus puller.
Tell us about what kind of projects you generally work on.
So for the longest time, I mostly did commercial and music video. I've now recently, in the last year, jumped into features. I've done two features just this 2022 calendar year. But yeah, lots of music videos and commercials.
That's awesome. Thanks for being here, Megan.
Thanks for
I
having me.
know I know Megan and her husband. I'm also based in Kansas City, and they're great. And I know people feel really lucky when they get Megan on set because there's always a lot of photos and there's always a lot of smiles. So Megan kicks ass. Patrick, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Howdy, everybody. Thanks, Julian and Megan, for jumping in here too, and Travis for putting this on. Yeah, so my name's Patrick Blewett, aka Pat. That's what I go by, and I'm the founder CEO of Inovativ. Started the company really based off the needs that I had for at that time my own digital service company, and which would have been in the late 2010 2011, somewhere around there, and just started building workstations that I knew would, you know, essentially make myself and my team more efficient on set. And then from that kind of stem this business. And now what, 10 years in, and it's like a full-fledged business. I'm focused on just constantly growing, constantly making new products, making sure that the business is a healthy place for for people to thrive in, and fun to be around. So that's kind of what I do these days.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys have only been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
You've made such a mark on the industry, and I think there are, you know, certain brand names that become sort of ubiquitous with a certain product line. Like for many years, people would just say, "Hey, I want a sky panel," when they meant any type of like, LED panel. And Inovativ and carts have definitely made that kind of impact. I mean, just they're on set everywhere. Everywhere I go, they're on set, and the build quality is pretty astonishing. I'm with Megan. I got into it around the Scout era, and it instantly became such an indispensable part of my workflow, to the point where, in fact, my original Scout was stolen, and I went out. A bunch of gear was stolen. My truck was broken into. They took everything. The first thing I went out and replaced, like right away, before I even knew what was happening with insurance or anything else, was I bought another Scout, because I was like, well, I mean, this is crucial to my workflow.
I think I even remember that call when that
Yeah,
happened, when that went down. Yeah, because
yeah.
you
Well,
actually had a special Scout, if I'm not mistaken. It was
I think I
probably one
did.
of, yeah. So
Maybe one day I'll come across it and like recognize it and know it's mine. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I wonder where that
yeah,
thing went. This was before AirTags. This is before you could just stick an AirTag on something and track its GPS anywhere.
yeah, exactly.
I feel like I
So
know everyone with the Innovate in Kansas City, so it's got to have left town.
I
So
feel like it did leave town. Yeah, sadly. So Patrick, talk to me a little bit about what was your first cart, and what, a little bit more specifics in terms
Yeah,
of what led you to creating Innovative. Obviously, it feels like with most entrepreneurs and with most brands like this, you were looking for a solution that didn't exist, so you decided to create your own. Is that accurate or no?
absolutely. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, do you want me to kind of give you a little bit more
Yeah,
understanding of how it was all
please.
kind of came about? Well, yeah. So, I mean, again, it was this desire to have something better. My back is like such a wreck that the traditional workstate or traditional carts, right, are just they sit too low. And that was like the first thing for me was like, man, bending over this thing all day long, being a digital tech, and trying to run the keyboard and monitors and all this other kind of stuff. It just wasn't good for anybody's, I think, posture, or just uh, being on set for 12 hours a day just totally ruins your back. So that was just like the basics of it. The other parts of it were certainly that there was no easy way to mount monitors, computers. It was just very, hodgepodge, right? So you could definitely do it with things off the shelf, but it wasn't going to be a super efficient workstation, something that you felt confident rolling around a set, and it wasn't going to topple over. The other thing was just like wheels and brakes. How many times have you rolled a cart and you're just like, man, I just wish this had like maybe, and that's the thing too, is like so many people never really thought about this, because I think that when you are used to using something and that's just what there is, you don't really think too deeply into how much better this could be, right? But as you kind of go down I think that rabbit hole of, well, actually, if we did this, the other, then you really start to form like something that is much better than what I think most people were using at the time. So that's kind of how it started, was just designing my first product, which was the Echo. Had drawers. It was really a digital text cart. Right. It had height adjustable shelving. It had brakes, and in the early days, I only had hydraulic brakes. I didn't have the foot brakes. So the hydraulic brakes were it's something very unique, I think, to most people, especially when they saw mine for the first time. They're like, "Holy cow, I want that!" Just because it made things so much easier. And then over the years, I mean, the when I went to NAB, let me backstep for a second here. When I realized that I had a company, right? When I had product that people really wanted, and at this time I had this other company called Ambient Digital, which was a basically similar to what like you guys do, which is I had all the equipment. I would rent the equipment out to photographers, DPs, and I would hold their hands making the transition into the digital era, right? So they were primarily film people that I was educating on how to certainly manage all of the data and whatever, all that stuff, right? So anyways, the importance of that was that I saw that Inovativ had more longevity than this other company. And so when I made that critical decision to go, okay, I'm going to go full fledged into this company actually has longevity. This is something that I could really build. And not thinking about myself, but just thinking about like I can make this product, this product, this product, this product, and I can make everybody's lives that much better. That's when I was like, all right, I'm going to make this into a company. And then somebody told me about NAB. I had no idea what NAB was. And I just went like double down. Let's go to NAB. Like in 4 months, it was like at the end of 2010, early 2011. It's like, screw it, let's go to NAB. And we had at that time just one cart, which was the Echo. And so in 4 months, like we built the Ranger, we built all these accessories, we built the Scout. And this is not the Scout that you had, Travis, or probably that you had, Megan, but it was like a very early form of the Scout. And then, the company just accelerated at that point. I just kind of, the first few years just went really, really, really fast until about 2014. And then designed a better Scout. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a lot going on. But the thing is that now the business is, all about just trying to make, really good product. And that gets more difficult as time goes by, I think, because there's more competition out too. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I think it's fascinating how many businesses grow out of just like a gap in the market where, like you said, there's so many people who probably were rolling around carts and they were just like, God, these wheels suck. But then they're just like, well, that's just all there is. So I guess I just have to live with it. And then there's that one person who comes along and is like, so frustrated or so annoyed by what doesn't work for them that they're like, I'm going to do this for myself. And like sometimes they're not even were you like creating products before this? Were you ever like, did you ever think like, I'm going to create a product someday?
No, I never did actually. I was making like things here and there, I think, as most people do when they own their own businesses, especially in this particular industry. You're kind of left to, creating some things by yourself to make things work easier for set life. But, thinking that I was going to make this company, to build product and all that kind of stuff, I had no idea. Didn't even think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So anyone listening to this or watching to this, if there's something out there that you have been wanting and you don't see anyone else making, instead of waiting for someone else to make it, just go out there and build it. Hire a designer if you can't design it and build it and just see what happens. You might be the owner of a very successful company 10 years from now. Hey, Julien, I want to kick it back to you. And do you remember when you first heard about Inovativ or saw them on set or why you decided to kind of go that route yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I still I learn something new every day. By no means do I think I'm anything at all. I'm still that self-taught photographer from yesterday. So, there's people out there that I'm aware that, I'm a newbie compared to veterans out there, right? So I'm relatively new. Um, Inovativ was something like that I didn't really realize how useful it was until I got one. And it was just like, holy crap, It was always something I wanted. It was everything's been like accelerated for me over the last 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, somewhere in there, and it was, I think I hired a good friend of mine as a camera operator, and we flew with his Evo. And that wasn't the first time, but that was an early thing. And even just like carts in general. I did this bigger job years ago with a team up in Boston, and it was like my first like cart life thing. And I was in the driving home, I ordered a cart. Like the cart I could afford at the time. It was like a cheap cart, like super cheap. And you get what you pay for. Like that thing didn't last. I ended up buying an Inovativ 6 months later, or even maybe 4 months later. It was like, yeah, that was it. I had always seen them. I always thought they looked crazy cool. And again, self-taught, sort of early on, being a one-man band, didn't really know or realize or think that it was something possible for me until it really was. And I remember the first shoot we brought it on, I was so stoked on it, so like proud of it. It like made things feel so good and streamlined, and we pushed it into the set, and it was totally like the hub, the ground zero for like the crew and people watching on the monitors, and like all the tools, and the person pulling focus, and managing, like the gaffer was looking at the screen, and it was so great, instantly great. And the best part, and we'll get more into it later, I'm sure, but I have a situation with a Mercedes Metris where I just have cheap ramps that just like get thrown in under the cart, and the whole cart just rolls down out of the back. And this was a huge, like my back, I had a back injury years ago, and I remember like, what's the word? Like justifying this stuff with my wife early on. I'm like, oh, we need this cart because it's gonna, and like we need this van. And it's so true, because I used to schlep all this stuff back into the house every day, and time is money. So like and energy is money. The amount of energy, the amount of time I've saved over the last 3 years since owning carts, Inovativ carts, like that's it. Like this isn't like a sales pitch. Like that's actually it. When I drive my van in to the driveway, I'm done. Like the things in the van, the van's in the driveway, I'm done. I'm not schlepping anything. We're not taking 8 trips upstairs at a shoot in New York City. We're just putting the cart in the elevator. That's it. I'm getting ahead of myself. Your question.
No, that's perfect. I mean, I think you're describing a journey, a career arc that a lot of us are really familiar with. I mean, I believe that it's almost like as unique as anyone might think they are. The more production people you meet, the more you realize like all of our journeys do have similar ebbs and flows and similar progressions. And I think one of those that I find to be like fairly ubiquitous is that early in your career, and speaking for myself here, and a lot of what you're saying, Julien, resonates with me. It's just like, you're like, okay, what can I buy that I can afford, that doesn't cost too much out of my pocket, that kind of works for now? And then, money is the most important factor. And then the busier you are and the more you grow, time becomes this like precious asset and resource that you're trying to protect at all costs, including how much time can I save on loading in and unloading, and how much time can I save, like not only loading in and loading out to my vehicle, but loading in and loading out to set and carts and systems in particular to streamline that process. And that becomes crucial to the point where you're just like, okay, I don't care as much what this costs anymore. If it saves me an hour every time I'm booked, this is like a no-brainer for me.
Totally. And I don't think I did it in order. People say lights are more important than lenses or cameras, which is true. I don't know. I don't think I did it in order properly, but when you're young, you take your health and your energy for granted. And, I think looking back, the reason why carts relatively have been new in my journey is that like the first, you build up. This is a long game. I tell people it's a long game. I bought my first camera 10 years ago. You're buying lenses, you're buying cameras, you're tinkering with lights. A cart isn't the first thing you buy when you find photography or filmmaking. And so but it's awesome. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
tell you this really quickly and then pass it off. Is I thought of this and it was really silly, but I'm going to say it is think about like if you go camping, and this is the silly part, like if a person is like riding a horse or they're out in the wilderness with like a donkey or a horse, or you're camping and you like all of your stuff, your car, if you're camping, or your RV or your horse or your donkey, like that's your lifeline. Like that's where your water is. That's where your tools are. That's everything. When I load up basically my entire kit to go shoot a big job for a week or something in New Jersey, which is, or whatever, the cart has everything. The cart has the RoboCup with the water. The cart has the AC kit, the tools, the media. Like that's the hub, right? Like that's the lifeline where like everything is well organized. So I kind of thought about that before this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, innovative carts are everywhere, but there's always that job where I feel like I roll it on and there's somebody in the crew who's never seen it before. And Julian and Megan, I'm sure you guys know what I'm getting to here, but they're just like, they look at it kind of like with awe and fascination, like, what is that? And it does kind of tend to become a hub. Megan, I want to hear your story about, how you discovered Innovative and what led you to, going down that path.
Yeah, for sure. So I probably heard about Innovate probably 5 or 6 years ago. It was the sexy, like new cart in town kind of vibes. And I just remember being like, that's the Ferrari of carts, and I would love to get my hands on one. And so I was in the market for a cart in general. And so buying the Scout was wonderful, especially being like, a small female. I'm able to like pack it up really small. It's super portable. I can lift it into my vehicle if I need to. It was really ideal. And then I outgrew it. It's a natural progression of life. And so I, starstruck, got the Apollo, which I love. And the thing that I've always appreciated about Innovate is that I like to think of them as the Lego sets of carts, because you can really adapt them to exactly what you need. As an AC, I want places to mount cameras. I have two of those camera mount horseshoes on each end, so I can have a tripod head on one and I can have just a quick release camera mount on the other. And I've got place for the tripod mount, and just the troughs. I love the troughs and everything. So to me, it's just wonderful. Like he was saying, it's like Julian was saying, it is your lifeline. It's your home. It's when you can expect everything you need on that cart, and all the accessories means I can keep a clean cart, which is just crucial. When you're desperately looking for something that has been called for and you need to grab it right away. So fell in love with the Scout, ended up selling it to a guy in town, got the Apollo. I'm absolutely, it's a great product. It's worth every penny you end up investing into it. And I'm constantly on the website thinking, okay, what's the next thing I can add to my kit?
Yeah. How do you have your Apollo built out?
So I've got dual, the camera, I like to call them the horseshoes, but it's the camera mount systems. So I just got off a 6-week feature up in Nebraska, and we're using Mitchell mount, big tripods and everything. So I had one horseshoe with the quick release, so the camera can just live there for builds. And then I had the place for the big tripod head, and then the sticks on the holder. And then I also have two of the like baby pin extension rods. A lot of times when I was moving I always have like a rolling stand for my cart, but sometimes you don't have enough hands to, or like, the second's off doing something else, or it's nice just to have the second and I could go talk to the DP. So we could load my rolling stand on those stand hangers, but do that, and then have my monitor up on the stand, up on the baby pin, and then boom, you're one man rolling your entire camera, tripod, monitors, the whole 9 yards.
That's awesome. What do you feel like the reaction from other crew members when you rolled out Apollo onto set is, especially people who maybe aren't super familiar with the product?
9 out of 10 times, I always get people going, "Oh, you're fancy. This is a fancy cart." So it's because a lot of people in the Midwest, at least, are still rocking some of the like Magliner stuff, and I feel like just an Innovate comes on, and it's like rolling up with a Tesla, and everyone's like, they're almost starstruck, especially when they start seeing all the kitted out features, and they're, super like, "Oh wow." I've had a lot of people instantly jump on the website and, like Julien, just be like, "All right, I got to get one of these," because they just see how much easier. And oh my gosh, like we were talking about earlier, the wheels, having a good set of wheels alone is just, life saving. I've drug my Apollo cart through hills and hills and hills of fields of tall grass that goes up to my waistline, and that sucker will take it.
The wheels are unbelievable. That's the first thing I think I noticed. I believe that I knew about Innovative, but it wasn't until I rolled one in person at an early NAB that I was like, what? I mean, there's nothing out there that rolls like this. And wheels can be such a pain in the ass on other carts. There was a discussion in City Kit List recently where someone, I'm not going to name the brand, but they were like, hey, should I buy a just basically just shitty innovative ripoff? And like Julien was saying earlier, you get what you pay for. I think my response was literally like, you can pass on an innovative cart to your children if you want to. It's that kind of like build quality. It's that kind of like legacy product, like generational product. Like that's how well built these are. If you want to use this cart for 2 decades and then give it to your kid, and like you can do that with an innovative cart. And you cannot do that with this other brand. The wheels are something else. Patrick, you want to talk to us a little bit about the wheels? Because you mentioned that, you teased that earlier. What if I might be wrong here, but I think you guys were looking for a solution and couldn't find one, and so you decided to design your own. Is that correct?
Uh, yes and no. And actually, before I answer that question, Travis, I just had to say, while I was listening to Julien and Megan talk about their experiences with um, their carts, that's everything to me to hear because the obvious reason of the reason why the company was built in the first place. And if I split the last 10 years into two, the first 5 years was just like constant driven to have that feedback from customers, right? To just make the absolute perfect product for you guys. Unfortunately, as you build a company, at some point it becomes, okay, it's a company. Now we got to turn this into this big behemoth thing and constantly make new products, new products, new products, new products. But that's like, that reminds me, those stories remind me of why the company was started in the first place, which was to make something that was inherently like just makes your day significantly better. And then one thing that Megan said was like, the sorry to get off track here, but the thing that I like that Megan said was about just the kind of the space. And Julien said this too about like, this is your hub. This is your place you're going to be working on for 12 hours a day. Right. So my whole thing was, how do you make the smallest footprint, but with the most real estate?
Mm.
And what I mean by that is like, the more accessories you can add to it that clean your desk, that make your workspace clearer, and then off the work table, it makes, then you don't have to have like this 6 foot cart with all this clutter. It's just like everything's very organized and well maintained. But back to the wheel question, Travis, I can't really recall if we were looking for something. I think that just in general, again, the Echo was the very first product we made, and we knew that the wheels were going to be such a key component to, delivering something that was just better. And again, at this time, it wasn't about a company; it was just about like my own needs and my team's needs. And the wheels, I think what happened was it was like nothing out there had a brake that worked. How about that? That's probably where it started. Was there's no caster on the market that one looks good, right? They're all steel. They're just kind of crappy. They don't roll well. They have a lot of movement in them, and then they don't have a brake that works really well. And the foot brakes that I'm talking about on those like generic casters, it's like they may work like one or two times, and then after a while they just stop working. And so
Especially if
you're
there's
throwing like,
any exposure to like the elements
mhm.
or whatever, or even if you put it in wrong and one of those little
Yeah,
things gets
yeah,
like tweaked just a hair, you try to step on it and it's like won't go down. So
yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, you're like bending it backwards to try to
Right.
like make more friction, more pressure, or you're throwing a sandbag under it half the time, just to make sure it's not rolling away from you. And I think that's definitely like it started with the brakes and it just kind of moves from there. But my the thing that I think made me very successful with the products early on was I had this wonderful opportunity to work with Brett Fose, who was he is a mountain bike, Hall of Fame mountain bike designer, and I come from riding. I was a competitive cyclist for a long time. In my like late teens, early 20s, and specifically into mountain biking. And Brent Fose is this guy that's just like he's legendary. And when I found out that he was in Pasadena, where I lived at the time, and my friend, a good friend of, there's a whole backstory that I'm not going to get into, but my friend Tom was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take your kitchen table down to this guy Brent and have him weld something for you because my kitchen table was really wobbly." I was like, all right. And then so I went down to go pick it up. And I'm like, holy shit, this is Brent Fose. You took my kitchen table to Brent Fose. And so I met Brent the first time and I pitched him on my idea of making this cart for my own company. And he was like, I love it. Let's do it. And then we just started like, working together 50-50 on the company in the early days. And without him, a lot of those designs are fundamentally his. Like he brought a lot to the table in those early years. So a lot of credit has to go to him too.
That's awesome. How did you land on the design for the locking mechanism and the wheels that like we're using today, especially on the Apollo, like those 10-inch wheels?
Um, that definitely started with, if you recall, like in the early, actually, I mean, there's even carts today that use this kind of design where there's like this little steel receiver on the back of the cart or the bottom of the cart, and then a traditional steel caster would just kind of slide into it, and then it would just kind of lock. But the thing is, it's just really noisy. It moves around. There's nothing that's like actually physically holding it there tight. And so I had this idea. I even have like a napkin where I drew this at a Denny's at NAB actually in 2011. With Brent, me and Brent are sitting at Denny's having breakfast before going to NAB, and I'm like, I got this idea of this fantastic wheel design. I know it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be a dovetail. It's gonna have this. It's going to be a brace for the bottom of the cart, and then the wheel's going to slide on. It's gonna clamp onto it. It's going to be solid. And so that's kind of where it started. And then him and I just kind of took it from there into like kind of making it more industrialized and beefier over the years. And the brake kind of came along from some industrial designs that we saw, some big, huge like welding tables that had like a very unique brake system, and not like ours, but kind of like similar function. Um, but yeah, that's kind of, it's funny where you get inspired, like certain designs will inspire you, and how that if you tweak it this particular way, it could really work for you. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the wheels to me are definitely one of my favorite features.
yeah, Megan's
Megan,
got to say something.
Can I
please
interrupt
hop
for a
in.
second? No,
Of
I just want
course.
to add on to those just compliment the design of the dovetail wheels, because like sometimes I don't always have the luxury, especially in the Midwest, to have like a van to load camera gear into. So a lot of times I'm using my Honda Element, and I can leave my cart built, and all I have to do is pop up on my tailgate, slide the wheels off, slide it in, and then it's a built cart, and then all I have to do is pop it out, slide the wheels on. So I'm using that dovetail wheel feature all the time. And the fact that I can just grab a wheel, slip it on, grab a wheel, it's just so incredibly fast, but also secure. I don't feel like my wheels are going to pop off rolling them around again in like a field. So great design. Just wanted to compliment that.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, and that's actually, I mean, 100% is the reason why it was designed that way, right? Because all of us have to be super mobile, And one of the great features of the Scout was, the Scout was designed to be lightweight, a lightweight version of the Echo, more or less in those early days, right? And an Apollo is like a very heavy duty version of a Scout. But the idea of the Scout was, if you were in your hometown, you were doing a shoot at your hometown, but then you had to travel for you guys, if you had to travel all the way to the West Coast, the one thing you realize is that you're likely to get one. I don't know these days, but back in those days, you definitely want to get an Inovativ cart. You're probably going to get like a fold out table or some jerry rigged crap that you're like, how am I going to be as efficient as I am today? Now on this job. And so the Scout was designed. I was actually doing a job at Intel in Oregon, and I was like, it's exactly what happened. The production gave me like this jerry rigged fold out table to put like an iMac and some cameras, and I was like, this is crazy. Like we're at Intel, going through the campuses of Intel, and this is how we look. This is just garbage. And so I was like, that gave me the idea to have this like product where you could have the same efficiency at your hometown, but wherever you go, you could take it with you. Right? Time is money, efficiency, confidence, all that stuff makes you feel like you can conquer the world. And if you have it, like it makes everything so much easier.
Well, and it's so cool how sorry to keep bumping in, but I love how all the accessories can fit inside. You can latch it together. It's one nice sandwich, and it's a small footprint once it's all folded up. It's pretty incredible. Both the Scout and the Apollo both fold up pretty neatly.
Yeah.
They just one last thing, popping back to the wheels. I feel like anytime I have one of these Inovativ carts on set and someone hasn't seen one in person yet, I always let them roll it, because that's what convinced me to buy one. And anytime you let them roll it, they're like looking at it, they're like, yeah, it looks pretty cool. I heard these things are kind of expensive though. And then you're like, can you just roll that into set for me? And then I just take off. And almost every time, a few seconds later, they're like, holy shit, this thing rolls like a dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know it's just a matter of time before they pick one up. Julien, I want to kick it back over to you and have you tell us how you have your Apollo built out for use on your sets.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at it, there's a keyboard flap so it can go up and down, right? And then on the right, I have the tripod mount horseshoe system with whatever 100 millimeter ball head I want to put in there with the camera built. And then on the left side in the corner, I have the baby pin attachment that goes into the corner and gets clamped. So on that side, I can put a 24-inch small HD in my case. And then on this side, on the right side, I can put my camera. And then I have cable hooks on the monitor side, and then I have a trough. And so like underneath the monitor gets like well organized, like the power adapter for the monitor. And then I'll put like a power strip for the batteries. And then I'll just kind of, organize everything from there in its space, But that's pretty much it. Yeah, just those accessories. And I think there's some other things I'm looking at, but honestly, that is everything I need it to be.
I love that you both have the same cart and have it organized completely differently. That's another amazing aspect of the brand, is just how unique you can customize this thing to suit your workflow. You've got a director DP and a first AC that have the same product and are using them on set and have them built out differently. And Inovativ provides all of the opportunities right there. You don't have to, like you said, rig it with some like, oh, I need to do this. Well, there's no solution here. We're just going to build our own. Like you guys have basically thought of all the ways that people might be able to use this cart and created your own in-house solution for it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I have the Robo Cups too. I think I have
gotta have the Robo Cups
more than a lot, because I'll give like the client, I'll be like, hey, you can put your coffee here, and they're like, oh yeah. I'll just say really quickly about New York, just for everybody listening who's in New York, they know They know in Brooklyn, New York, there's cobblestone streets. You're parking in some garage, 10 blocks away. You're going up to the 30th floor to this office building. You're going into the dungeon, like, the cart goes everywhere. And weeks ago, parking was atrocious and timing was atrocious. And I had my crew waiting with the cart at the location, and I was in the underground parking garage many blocks away, and it was just a nightmare. Like, my car was deep and it was going to take like an hour. And they decided to just push the cart maybe like 8 blocks in the center of Manhattan. And like, it's not smooth. Like, you're pushing the cart, and it wouldn't even be an option if you didn't have a cart or had any other cart. And that just sort of paints a picture of the type of tool it is, for us.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to go off-road with any other cart, like a heavy cart with tiny little wheels, and you get into some like wet dirt or something, and it's just like, y'all, right down into the earth. Whereas the innovative wheels are like sort of kind of come all terrain naturally. And I keep talking about the wheels because they're like so important. But I was on a set not long ago where it had just rained, and I was just gaffing, but I still brought my innovative carts, and we were rolling some stuff onto like a wet field, and the AC on the camera crew didn't have one, and they got stuck like pretty quickly, and we were just kind of rolling. I felt bad for him, like rolling right by him with like all our like much heavier stuff, like sandbags and everything. We're just rolling right by him, and I was like, I'm not going to look at them because I know they're feeling shamed right now.
That's too bad.
So this call's been awesome. I just want to go around to Julien and Megan again one more time and just tell me your favorite feature of the Apollo. So I'll start with Megan.
Oh man, favorite feature. It's hard to pick just one. Um, I mean, obviously, like we've been been talking a lot about the wheels. They're incredible. But I think for me, it's just ease of adaptability. Like I was saying, I can just slap on a bunch of accessories for exactly what I need. Having the troughs readily available, being able to pack that with filters and batteries and whatever catch-alls that I need. The camera mount system is super secure and sturdy. It can take a lot of weight. There's really not any bad features of these carts. You know what I mean? They're all pretty incredible, not to sound like a total sellout, but they really are. I mean, they 100%. I will never own another type of cart. I will always own an innovative cart.
That's awesome. And then Julien? And then also, Julien, I had another question for you. You mentioned buy once, cry once. I think when you were talking, no, you get what you pay for. I said buy once, cry once. You said you get what you pay for. And sometimes I hear people talking about how, they're looking at carts, they want a cart solution, they see the sticker of Inovativ, and they're just immediately like, ooh, that's a lot of money. I think I can get one for cheaper. Can you talk a little bit about why you feel like it's important to like buy the right product rather than worrying so much about how much it costs?
Yeah, that's a big thing. My first thought with what's my favorite feature was like, can I say the whole thing as a package? And then my second thought was like, I guess I'll just say it's strength, because there's a lot of things out there that isn't going to last forever. But that's not the case with the Inovativ cart. Just it as an entire package. It's truly, without exaggerating, like you said, something you're going to pass on and have for so long. It's not something that's babied. It's pushed into the van. It's pushed into the venue, into the arena. It's so the whole thing as a package, as a massive tool, is my favorite feature. It's strength. It's not something that you worry about taking care of. It doesn't need to be taken care of. It's working for you. You get what you pay for. And then I think somebody said, which I love, is it wasn't buy once, cry once. It was I don't know. You know it. It's something else. In your early, I mean, sometimes, like you said, if you looked at me 5, 6, 7 years ago, I didn't own an Inovativ car. It wasn't the right time to buy an Inovativ car. But now I'm like, do I buy a third Inovativ car? Um, you get what you pay for. I mean, look at a sticker price and do some math, do some financials. How long are you going to have this thing for? Are you going to have it for 10 years or 20 years? If you're going to have it for 10 years, then divide the price by 10, and that's what it costs per year. If you're renting out your equipment, that's actually a profitable piece of equipment. With that, just to make up numbers, if a Inovativ cart, I don't even know if we need to make up numbers. I don't want to mess something up, but it's profitable per year. Like the Inovativ cart is actually making me money every single year. It didn't cost me $2,000 or $3,000. It's actually making me
Totally.
$2,000, so that's sort of that. And then the thing about buy once is you buy the crappier cart, you buy the crappier monitor, you really want the other one, and it is absolutely inevitable that you are eventually going to own the thing you really wanted or needed, whether it's the cart or whatever. And actually, if you just bought that thing from the beginning, you'd actually had spent less money because you wasted time and money buying that thing that was less than optimal, 1 year ago or whatever.
100%.
And that's happened many a times.
Yeah, same. I'm firmly with you on that philosophy, and it's because I have done it the wrong way so many times and I just realized, yeah, I realized from failing what works. And in general, buying the right product the first time, if you can make it happen somehow, is going to save you money in the long run. I want to talk. Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's like buying a good pair of work boots. You skimp and you buy the $50 work boots. You're gonna have to replace them next year. You buy the $150 work boots. Those suckers will go, 1,000 miles with you. Same thing with an Innovate. It's the investment's worth it.
Yeah, and the work boots are probably the more expensive work boots are probably look better and they're more comfortable. And it's like little things like that. Sometimes we don't like to add into the calculations, but I think it matters. I think it matters if it looks better. I think it matters if it's easier to use, if it's more comfortable, if you just like it better. If the latches just are more satisfying when you close them. I mean, all those things. It's hard to put a price on every one of those details, but they do matter. In wrapping it up, I think I just want to talk about, since we're highlighting Apollo here, I want to talk about, why Apollo. Inovativ offers so many different carts. So maybe I'll start off just directing it to Patrick real quickly to tell us what sets apart Apollo from the other carts like Voyager.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the Voyager is the successor to the to the Scout, and so everything we learned from the Scout, from our customers, we kind of bake that into the Voyager. The Apollo came about because what you get from a cart like the Voyager. So if we compare the two, the Voyager and the Voyager is a very lightweight cart, just as the Scout was, right? And they're lightweight travel carts. They're designed to obviously pack into a case as streamlined as possible, but also be very lightweight so that you can kind of pick the whole thing up, put it in the back of your small compact car, carry it up a flight of stairs, or travel with it, put it on an airplane. You know what I mean? So because of that, the Voyager has to have certain rules applied to it when designing it, right? And sometimes, that it's not great for everybody. So people that are going to be maybe utilizing need more of a rugged workstation it's just like built like a tank, and that you can just plow around fields and carry a lot of weight, and also something that you don't necessarily need to break down every day. The Apollo was kind of conceived from the idea of taking an Echo and turning it into a case like platform, like a case cart, not a travel cart, but a case cart. And what I mean by that is that, you would build an Apollo and you might work on it for 3 or 4 days, maybe longer. And then at the end of the shoot, you could either strap it to the side of a truck and take it across country. You can pull the wheels off, put them into the inside of the cart and turn it into a case and ship it if you needed to. But it wasn't designed with the idea of like throwing it into a plane and like, flying to Europe with it, right? It's too heavy to do that. But because of that, the Apollo is very, very much different than the Voyager, even though they are, similar in terms of like they fold down to a case. You guys have all now built your Apollos several times, and you know that like the tubes go into the corners, and that's a manual process. Whereas the Voyager, you just kind of pick them up and they click right in. But the Apollo I wanted the tubes as far out to the edges as possible. That just increases the rigidity and the durability of the whole thing. And then the really distinct features that are different that most people probably wouldn't even notice is that the Apollo is made of material that's twice as thick as a Voyager. So it's significantly thicker, heavier material. And then on the bottom of your Apollo, you actually have a mainframe that's hidden that you guys probably don't even know that you have. But if you were to measure, like there's the handles on the inside or the bottom of the cart that you can, pick the cart up if you wanted to hurt your hands. But anyways, there's a mainframe sub panel that's about a 3/4 inches thick, maybe half to 3/4 inches thick. That's the entire bottom of the cart. And that sure enough adds weight to the cart, but it makes it so freaking strong. That cart has zero flexibility, meaning it's not gonna, when you're rolling it over, crazy environments, you're not gonna feel the cart kind of move and sway. Whereas like a Scout or a Voyager, you're gonna feel that, right? It's not necessarily bad. It's just that the Apollo is significantly stronger. And I mean, that's just a couple of things that make it obviously very different. And then you have the corner things, right? The corner clamp systems where you can put accessories in. I think that's one of the greatest features of the Apollo, that and the hinged keyboard front shelf. You could throw drawers on it. It's really built to, I think, work really well with like integrated accessories. And there are specific Apollo design integrated accessories that work great with that cart.
Yeah, just being able to drop the baby pin right into the tube, or the same thing with the baby pin riser, and not have it kind of attached off of one of the legs like the Voyager and the Scout is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And also you can mount on the Apollo and the Voyager too, you can mount the camera mount systems directly to the top shelf and the crossbar. Whereas like the older carts, you would have to have two crossbars to do that. And so we changed that on the Voyager and the Apollo so that you can just directly mount to the cart, and that strengthens that whole system as well. But yeah, I mean, there's, the other thing too is it's if you want to talk like weight, it's like an Apollo 40 is like 110 pounds, like fully built. Maybe it's less. It's like 102, 103, something like that. Whereas a Voyager 36 fully built out is under 70 pounds. So you're talking, it's like 35, 40 pounds heavier for an Apollo. And that's all directly related to the tubes. The tubes are also twice as thick as a general Voyager. And then the pans have twice as thick as well. So
I think it's a good thing that it actually doesn't feel that heavy. Like, I'm really surprised that you say that, maybe because it's just distributed. But that, like, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, but it really doesn't
yeah.
feel that. It doesn't feel like that.
The wheels help too, right? Because if the wheels felt heavy, and they feel light, right? They kind of move like butter. It definitely makes the whole, I think, process feel lighter than it really is. And it is, like you said, Julian, it's definitely like, if you lean up half of it or push it around, you aren't necessarily picking up 110 pounds of dead weight or 105 pounds of dead weight. But yeah, it is significantly more heavier than the Voyager, but it's honestly, it's my favorite cart. Everything in it is awesome.
Yeah, when we first started talking about this promotion, I wasn't as familiar with the Apollo, and getting my hands on it and building it and using it. I mean, literally the first thing I said when I had it built, I was in my driveway putting it together, and I put it together, and I stood there and I said, this is a work of art. Like, I feel like you could put this in a museum of like design. Seriously. It's like, I thought the Voyager was robust. but putting together the Apollo was like, oh, I didn't realize you could take a lot of these things and like up them a notch in terms of build quality. So
Yeah,
really super.
do you guys use the rail plates at all for like mounting accessories?
Is that the
The
plate
right.
that connects? Is that the plate that connects the two vertical posts?
No, it's the ones that are in the pan itself in the tray that have like the threads and you can just, mount right to it. Do you guys use that for anything?
I haven't particularly used it except to like sometimes store, I'll hook things to them, but
Hmm.
I haven't particularly used them. I did just see a guy mount his like one of those like what is that brand of clip bags that are really popular right now? They have the
Yes.
crossbar. I just saw a
That's what
guy
I
do
saw
that
that
and
too.
okay, so I have that exact piece of gear and I hadn't figured out what to do with it. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna mount it to my innovative. This is gonna be great.
Yeah. Yeah, because you could just screw them right in. I saw that. I think I probably saw the same picture, and I was like, "That's such a great idea to just mount those bags, like screw those bags right into the threaded rail plates."
Hmm.
I've put random things on there, whether it's like a magic arm with like a light on it to light up the cart or something. But even just now, you made me brainstorm. You know those like I don't use I use a quick release, but you know the eye bolt that you could put on top
Hmm.
of the top handle for a easy rig? Like imagine having those eye bolts in there and then using like a carabiner to clip on your
Uh,
like, gaff tapes or something. Like it's endless. So if you want to get really if you like that stuff, I mean it's great, you know?
Yeah,
I,
totally.
I usually have like
I've also
two.
put parts in
Oh,
there
go ahead.
too. So if you have 3/8 or quarter 20 like screws and stuff, like as an AC Megan, like it could be cool. Like sometimes instead of losing screws, you could put them in there and have extra screws, like
That's a
on
great idea.
just to have. Like even tripod head screws you could have in there.
A little storage, a little security.
Yeah.
Pull one out. You're just going to be the savior of the day when somebody's looking for one.
Boom.
The person with that screw is always like the hero. That's why even when I'm gaffing, I always have a little like organized box of tripod screws. And even this job I was just gaffing last week, they were looking for one and I just handed it to them. And it's like, God, it's like gold. It's literally like you are the hero for that second. And then you're
Or
like, I better get that back by the end of the day. I will come looking for that screw.
or
Yeah.
the Teradek needle, right?
Oh, right.
Oh my God, you mean the paper clip? Yeah.
There you go.
Uh, All right, guys. So this has been an amazing conversation. I thanks everybody for joining us on this. Syndicate List is partnering with Innovative to run a deal on the Apollo. It's dropping this week. If you want pricing information, just go to our Facebook group, which is just Google search City Kit List or go to our website, citykitlist.com. Just winding things up, I'm just gonna go around the room one more time and everybody tell us where we can find you on social media. Julian,
Yeah, Julien Jarry is my Instagram.
is that Jari with two R's?
Yep,
Jarry?
Julien with an E, A Jarry with two R's.
Okay, and then what about Vintel? Do you have a site for that, or
Yeah,
Instagram or anything?
it's vin.tal, Vintel, because someone else has Vintel on Instagram.
Bastards. Megan,
Yeah, so obviously super active on Instagram. You can find me either by just saying Megan Commons, Meghan, or my handle is Meg Phoenix, Meghphoenix. But yeah, super active. Shoot me a hi.
Pat,
At Innovative. That's our Instagram, and we're definitely very active on Instagram. So,
that's
or
awesome.
innovative.com, you know.
And y'all can find me at City Kit List on any of these places, or my personal is at Travis Wears, Wears. Thanks everybody again for joining us on this call. Julian, Megan, Pat, this was really fun. Talking shop is one of my favorite things, and being able to partner with a brand that we truly love and admire, like Innovative, is just really special to me. So, thank you, Pat, for making this happen, and thanks everybody for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julian.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Travis.
Megan. Great to meet you guys.
Yeah, so nice meeting you.